It's hardest on the mothers. They're ones who have brought these fine boys up to their childhood and made brave men of them.
I want to send a mother's prayers to all of the boys tonight. We here at home are proud of you boys, and we hope that God will bless and protect you through this fearful war.
You're listening to the Stories Behind the Stars podcast, and I'm your host, Tatiana Fallon. This podcast is run by the organization Stories Behind the Stars. We have the goal of writing a story for every American service member killed during World War II. That's over 420,000. We are accomplishing this goal through amazing volunteers who you will hear in this podcast as they research and write these stories. If you're at all interested in becoming a volunteer and researching and writing these stories, please check us out at storiesbehindthestars.org. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy this amazing content that we're finding. The audio heard at the beginning of this podcast is actually a radio recording that we talk about in this podcast. This is part 2 of my interview with Mark Hutson, author of So Costly a Sacrifice. Really well-written book, amazing story. Wow, so they had their boys were in both main theaters,
and that's one of the points that I make, when we think about the Sullivans, right? When they entered service, they wanted to serve together. They wanted to serve on the same ship. And when they were in the naval battle of Guadalcanal, bad things can happen, and it certainly did. But one of the remarkable differences between the Sullivans and the Borgstroms is the fact that each Borgstrom boy was killed in a completely different theater war. One in Italy, right? One on Guadalcanal, one in France, and one in England. So.
Yeah, that is remarkable. It also just kind of really does hit home the worldwide nature of the war. I think when I was first learning about World War II and out of high school, and I was like, oh, it just in my head, it's it happened in Germany, right? And then maybe Japan, but yes. I didn't really no, this was Africa and remote islands in the Pacific and and all over Europe. And it wasn't just one country. And I think that it just shows to you the magnitude of the war that one family could have so much bad luck, obviously, and experience that in all these different, major theaters of the war. It's just phenomenally, tragic, and then also just shows you really how the magnitude of the war really was. Wow.
And the thing of it is, this family just kept giving. Not only did they give their 4 boys, they also I believe it was November of 1944, they had the 6th war bond drive. And, they had just gotten the notice. They had just got the telegram at this time of the death of their 4th boy. And it was just a couple weeks later that they had the what was called the American Pilgrimage, and it was essentially a radio program. And what they did is they had Hollywood actors, and they radio personalities. They went to essentially different homes of different where they had families that had lost loved ones, and one of the families that they talked to and interviewed was the Zamperini family, and they asked the Borgstroms if they would participate, and they did. And again, it's just, you think about this is just 2 weeks after they lost their 4 sons. They're still grieving, but yet they're so willing to help the country out, to to help raise money to keep to keep fighting the war. So they just gave so much in every way.
Well, I think our listeners should definitely check out the book because it's a phenomenal read. It's very well written. But I want to ask you a question and a couple questions before we finish up. And I always like, asking people these questions. But do you feel like doing this project has changed you or changed your perspective in any way?
I don't know that change would be the word, but I do want to say that it's one of the proudest things that I've ever done in my life. And I say that because one of the things, when I made that promise to the Borgstrom family about writing this book, the main goal was obviously to make, to bring their story to life. But one of the driving factors for me was that I had to do right by this family. Now, mind you, I knew nothing of this family. They knew nothing of me. So just imagine a stranger from Illinois showing up at your doorstep in Utah and saying, you know what? I'm going to promise to write a story about your family. But one of the things that absolutely drove me was how at the end of the day, when the book was published, it had to be accepted by the family. And if it was not accepted by the family, regardless of any other of the readers who've read the book and thought that I had done a good job, I would have considered myself a failure. And so one of the proudest things was that we finally, after all these years, we finally got the story of this family's enormous sacrifice out. But two, the fact that they really accepted the writing and the book, and that they were proud of it, just really, really made an impact in my life.
Well, I think you took, it's very well researched and very well written. So I think you did do justice to that story very, very well. So
thank you.
And the last question I want to ask you is, what advice would you have to somebody thinking about researching World War II Fallen, if any?
Don't hesitate. I say don't hesitate. It's we all say we cannot let history just fall into oblivion. We have to or into the abyss. There's so many unbelievable and uncovered stories out there that they're just waiting for someone to tap into. And as a first-time writer, I can say that it is a major commitment. You will most likely feel like you want to quit 1,000 times, but we owe it to our veterans. We owe it to the families to make sure that as many of these stories that we can bring about, that's something that we need to do in their honor. And I would encourage anybody that had any thought of doing it to don't wait. Every day, veterans from every war, and especially World War II, pass. And, if the opportunity presents itself for you to talk to a World War II veteran or any veteran, if they're willing to share their story, don't hesitate to get yourself involved with it.
Yeah, I really love that, and there's so much to be learned from these stories that I feel like even if, you've spent all this time researching and writing and it does, let's say the book doesn't get read by millions of people, but it still gets read by thousands of people.
Yes.
Or it's a story that once it's told, there's an opportunity to hit the one person that needs to hear it, and that one person who needs that in their life. And that's the thing that has really been super motivating for me. And I've said this before, but the story of the one is so powerful when we take the time to tell it,
Yes.
And obviously the story of these four brothers, but one family, it's so powerful because like, I feel like as we live in this world of ultra connectivity and this like world of everybody wanting to be Instagram famous or just
Sure.
like go viral, or whatever.
Sure.
We forget about the importance of like being really awesome in your community with 15 neighbors around you. And we forget
Yes.
about being really, really grounded with the 10 family members that you have,
Yes.
and then we try to like impress everyone else or be there for this ethereal idea when we can read stories about the Borgstroms and be like, no, look, this is what made them get through the hardest things and they would ever experience was their community, their faith, their family, these things that we've had for, hundreds of years in the world as humanity. But when now it's like with technology, we kind of like, oh, we don't need this. I can get, by with my chat room friends, which
Sure,
is maybe, but it's so powerful to realize like what got this family through this horrific thing really was that their community and their family and what helped them get through that. And it really is important for us to focus on these influences. We do have, areas we do have influence, which is, being really kind to our siblings or, treating our mother and father with respect. And I think that the story is super powerful and you did a wonderful job telling it. So
thank you.
Do you want to say anything else to our listeners? Where can they find the book and how could they access it? Or
Yeah, sure. It's so it is available on Amazon, and again, the title is "So Costly a Sacrifice." But you can also get the book on my website, which is again serviceflagtradition.com. And you will find on the website not only is the book available on the website, but I would encourage everyone to take 5 minutes and just kind of check out the website. It's totally dedicated to the service flag. There's stories about some of the service flags that we actually have in our collection. I have a service flag that was signed by President Woodrow Wilson from a mother who had 5 sons serve in World War I. I have a service flag that's 18 feet high by 12 feet wide that has thousands of stars on it. That's from a community in Illinois. And so there's several stories about that. I worked with roughly 50 universities and their archives departments to dig up some of the original photographs of the service flags that they had on their campuses during both World War I and World War II, and then just a large collection of original photographs with mothers and towns, churches that have the service flag displayed. So there's just a wealth of information on the website. So.
Yeah, I will definitely check that out. Just a follow-up question then. When did we stop giving service flags? I mean...
Oh, we still do. Yeah, we absolutely still do.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we as part of the Legion that I belong to, I run the service flag program. So, yeah, so we still over the last several years have presented families with both blue and gold star service flags. Yes.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, my brother's a veteran of the Air Force, and my brother-in-law's a veteran of the Army. Well, he's actually still in the Army Guard.
Sure.
But I've never seen them have a service flag, so I was like, oh, I wonder.
Yeah, it's a I would say it's a tradition. It began in World War I, and during World War II, it was the second most popular flag next to the American flag.
Yeah.
And occasionally, if you look, I mean, most of you just drive through, you drive through towns and cities and neighborhoods, and but once in a while, in the town that one of the towns that we often visit, Cedarburg, Wisconsin, there's one house that has a Gold Star service flag hanging in the window. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, there was a family that lived like not super close to us growing up, but I was probably like 15 and I saw, I think, my first Gold Star in a window, and I went to my dad. I'm like, why is there a Gold Star in that window? It makes no sense. And I guess it would have been one of the Gulf conflicts.
Yes.
But yeah, so I mean, I knew we still had like Gold Stars, but I had not seen a service flag in a window for a while. But I'm also I don't drive around a lot.
Exactly. It's not like you're like you're driving through neighborhoods and looking at the windows. Yeah.
So that's good to know. We've continued that tradition. That's really awesome.
Yes.
And the saddest part is that my uncle's Gold Star, my grandma got rid of it because she's like, well, who's going to want this? And I was like, oh my gosh. She got an extra handful of that pragmatic attitude of like the Great Depression.
Sure.
So she was like insanely pragmatic. Like she, so.
It's funny you should say that, because, we have done several events. I mean, we do this all on our own dime. We do not charge money to do it. And again, if you go to the website, you can see that we did an event in Mequon, Wisconsin. You can just get a taste of the display, and what you see in that picture is probably it's just half of what we have. But it's like the book. It was just to me it was just like a calling to feel the need to educate people on this and to share stories about our veterans. And we've done events at the VA in Manhattan, New York. We've done an event in Branson, Missouri during Veterans Week down there, Veterans Day week down there. We also did an event at the Currahee Military Museum down in Toccoa, and that's where the 101st, the guys, in the Band of Brothers, that's where they trained. So every year they have Currahee Week, Currahee Days, I should say, and so we did an event down there, and there I had the privilege of meeting, 3 members of Easy Company from the Band of Brothers, Al Mapry being one of them, and was able to have the privilege of getting to know Al and his daughter Virginia from that. So it's just amazing, the people that you meet and the stories that you hear. But one of the things that that has kind of caught me off guard a little bit is I've had people come up and ask me if I wanted their grandfathers or fathers' uniforms, their patches, and from their military service, and I will not accept it. And I often tell them, please do not sell it. But just keep it, because the older that they get, I think the more that they're going to be able, at some point, I think they'll be able to connect with it. But so.
I'm interrupting the podcast right now to make a plug for our Arlington project. We're in the middle of it right now. We're hoping to get these done by the 4th of July, and there's so many amazing stories here to be found. So if you are new to the project, please visit storiesbehindthestars.org and click the volunteer button. If you've already been a volunteer and you've just kind of gotten busy, consider giving a little bit more of your time and contacting us to get some names to start doing research for these Arlington stories. They're quite phenomenal, and just be part of a really amazing national project. And then also, if you're new to the podcast, please consider subscribing so that when we put out new episodes, you can be notified and you can listen to these really awesome stories as we're finding them.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. You might not see the value, but there's bound to be someone in your family that is. Get on a family. Some point. Yeah, at some point, get on. The one thing I really love though about are you familiar with the website Family Search?
No.
it's a really awesome website where you can go in, it's all free, and you can put in your family and your family history. It's like Ancestry, but it's more for keeping your family like memories. And so you can go in and upload photos and documents and pictures and of your family. And it's a great way, because thankfully my grandmother was really big into family history, and so she has gone in and like filled out so much of our family tree. But it's so fascinating to get on Family Search, and I'll go in there and I'll just do some searches like, oh, let's see, this person looks interesting. And like, you can see like journal entries that people have found and uploaded and put in there. You can see photos of like their farmhouse or like all these cool things. And then I'll like share that with my kids. And it's super cool for them to make that connection, and they feel like they're part of a big family tradition. Right. So I think, even if people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to keep it, be like, well, take a photo of it and put it on Family Search so your family can have some kind of memory of it, because
absolutely,
it's really cool to find those things when people do take the time to put them on Family Search. Yeah,
and speaking of that, and I don't want to get too long-winded here because I can, especially when we talk about the Borgstrom family, but one of the you think about things, things being lost, and during my 5 years of research, a couple things that I was just, it just makes you feel, very, very proud. But it was, one of the things that the family had, no longer have, but obviously the mother and father, it was President Roosevelt actually wrote the family a letter, and none of the family members knew what happened to it. And I went to, on part of my research, I went to FDR's presidential library in Hyde Park, New York. And it just happened that there was a very small folder with very few documents in his library on the Borgstroms. And so when I got the folder, I'm sitting down at the desk in their research area. And I opened up this folder, and there was the original letter that Roosevelt had sent to that he had sent to the Borgstroms, and so now that was something that I was able to give to the family, which I thought was just very sentimental. And one other thing, if I may say, was I spoke of that radio program called The American Pilgrimage. And in my research, there was just a little note in one of the newspapers about the war bond drive. And so I started to research, the American Pilgrimage, how, is there some audio file that still exists? Well, so happens I really stumbled upon this gentleman out in California who essentially has a massive collection of old radio shows. And so I sent him a request and told him I was looking for, and gave him kind of the time frame and in the name of the program. And lo and behold, he had an audio file, and he sent it to me. And so as I sit down to play this audio file, I believe it's the fourth story in. It was the Borgstrom family. Now imagine this. Sending, I got the audio file. I sent it out to members of the Borgstrom family. For some, it was the very first time that they ever heard Gunda and Albin, and certainly Boyd speak. It was their opportunity, to hear them for the first time. So, it's just, you talk about research and how you can impact someone's life, and I mean, just those two things alone, really, really made an impact with them. So. You just never know what's out there.
Wow, that's so cool. Is that a file that you could share with me, and maybe I could take
Absolutely.
the audio and we could put it in here and have our listeners
absolutely,
do that.
Absolutely. And again, and funny enough, I think the third story was about the Zamperini family. They were with they were interviewing the Zamperini family in their home, and at the time they had just got word that he was a prisoner of war. So, yeah.
Most people should be familiar, if they're interested in World War II, about the Zamperini family.
Yes,
they're pretty famous, and I mean, obviously for multiple reasons. But they just made that movie, Unbreakable or Unbroken.
Yes,
I can't remember.
Yeah, Unbroken, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we watched that. That was a phenomenal movie. So maybe this is just the ball rolling, and we'll see a Borgstrom family movie in the future.
I often get, question. They say, oh yeah, that's didn't they make Private Ryan when they make the movie? And anything that you read pretty much online, they being, I believe, like the producers and the people, with the movie, they say it was based on the Nyland brothers from Tonawanda, New York, and I mean, I can't, I have no facts about, whether or not what that movie was what family was loosely based off. I don't know what they say, but I can tell you after 5 years of research, to me and to many, it really is more reflective of the story of the Borgstrom family than any other family.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, readers will have to get the book though, because the process of getting Boyd home, I was so angry that was like even had to happen. I mean,
yes.
So yeah, people will have to get the book and read it if they want to know about that process. But that was definitely a frustration of mine.
Yeah, and the story of Boyd after the war is it's remarkable. It's I think there's a good lesson in it, and it will break your heart. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, get the book and read it, so you can get the whole story. Well, I appreciate you taking an hour of your time with us today, and I know that your work was well done and will be greatly appreciated among our listeners. And we appreciate all of our volunteers who are working on our stories here, and they all do phenomenal jobs. And we're so grateful for the amount of time given, and so grateful for your willingness to come on the podcast and share this awesome story with us.
Absolutely, and a heartfelt thankful to you for what you do. It's you guys have an unbelievable mission, and everyone owes you a big thanks for all that you guys are doing and all the time and resources that you commit to this. And I personally thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing. So.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Included following my remarks is the actual audio of the radio program that the Borgstrom family were a part of. And you can listen to that. It's really kind of cool to just hear their story from their own mouths. Great, huge shout out to Mark Hutson for getting that for me. Also in the show notes is a link to his book. Definitely check it out. And check out storiesbehindthestars.org to volunteer and start doing research like this and finding these really impactful, powerful stories.
Over a ridge of hills from Promontory Point on the north shore of Great Salt Lake is a quiet little valley. Almost as if for protection from a towering giant, it nestles low against the rugged slopes of the Wasatch Mountains. Going down the winding road to the Borgstrom farm is Gene Herschel.
20 acres of this valley belonged to Alban Borgstrom and his boys. Before the war broke out, Leroy, Clyde, the twins, Rulon and Roland, and Boyd were familiar figures in and around Thatcher, Utah. Nearly every head gate in the irrigation system in this valley was set by these boys of Alban Borgstrom's. I saw one this afternoon, and there, etched by a boy's finger in the wet cement, were the initials LB, Leroy Borgstrom, and CB, Clyde Borgstrom. Here in this little dining room of a typical American farmhouse sit Father Alban Borgstrom and his wife Gunda, their 3 married daughters, and 2 boys, Elton, 15, and Boyd, who has just been given an honorable discharge from the United States Marine Corps. Boyd, tell me about your 4 gallant brothers.
Leroy was the oldest, Mr. Herzog. He joined the army and was serving in the Italian sector when he was killed. He is buried in Italy. Clyde was next. He joined the Marines and was sent to the Pacific. He gave his life on a beachhead at Guadalcanal.
And the twins, Rulon and Roland?
When D-Day came, they were over in Europe. Roland was flying a bomber, and during one of his bombing missions, his plane was badly shot at. When they landed back in England, Roland was dead. They laid him away in England. That was in August of this year. In September, Mom and Dad got word that the last of my brothers in combat zones was missing.
I can well imagine the anxious hours you all must have spent after that report.
Yes, then on November 6th, Major Astley drove up in his car to tell the folks that Rulon, too, had given his life. Killed in action in an attack at Madrid, France, August the 25th.
And Boyd, you were in the Marine Corps.
I joined up in 1940. Overseas duty with the Marine was at Johnson Island in the South Pacific. Then I was brought back to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. It was from this camp that I was given my honorable discharge to come home and help Mother and Dad.
Mr. Borgstrom, you were overjoyed to have Boyd come home, weren't you?
Yes, Mr. Herschel. Mrs. Borgstrom and I had hoped that the authorities would let Boyd come back to us. And believe me, he is a mighty fine boy. So were his brothers, good boys. Good. Just like all other American boys who are unselfishly giving everything they have to end this terrible war. It's hardest on the mothers. They're ones who have brought these fine boys up to their childhood and made brave men of them.
I want to send a mother's prayers to all of the boys tonight. We here at home are proud of you boys, and we hope that God will bless and protect you through this fearful war.
Mother has spoken the thing that's in the hearts of us all. I believe the gift Mrs. Borgstrom and I have cherished most of all is this framed copy of Abraham Lincoln's letter to Mrs. Bixby of Massachusetts, who gave 5 of his sons in another war.
Yes, President Lincoln's immortal words find open hearts in this humble little farmhouse in Utah. Well might we, with him, say again, I feel how weak and fruitless must be any words of mine which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering to you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the Republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of the loved and lost, and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom.
This November night, on the earth of 5 continents, the waters of every quadrant, the reaches of all the skies, our nation is marching on an American pilgrimage, a journey into freedom. United States warborns will speed that journey.
You have been listening to American Pilgrimage, a special broadcast presented by the Columbia Broadcasting System for the United States Treasury Department in the interest of the 6th Victory War Loan Drive, starring Victor Jory and featuring the CBS personalities Cecil B. DeMille, Gene Herschel, Milton Bacon, Jim Crocker, and Burt Lytell. Making a journey to the homes of Americans who have gone out to fight for freedom. The combined staff of the Columbia Network contributed to the program, which was written by Robert Heller, with an original score composed and conducted by Alexander Semler. American Pilgrimage was produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon and Lieutenant Howard G. Barnes, United States Naval Reserve. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.